Shanti, Shanti.
Good evening, good morning, welcome back. So we took a week break and continuing our discussion after that. So we were reviewing Kena Upanishad because we reviewed Mundaka Upanishad last year and we were reviewing Kena Upanishad. So today we will complete our review of Kena Upanishad and then at the end we can have the Q&A. So before we get started, let's listen to the Shanti mantra of this Upanishad and then we can get started. So let's listen.
Om apyayantu mamangani vakpranaschakshushrotramatho balamindriyani cha sarvani sarvam brahma upanishadam maham brahma nirakuryam mama brahma nirakarot anirakaranamastva nirakaranam me astu तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्मास्ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.
Okay, so let's do a quick recap and then we covered chapter 1 in our first session. We covered the overview, we covered the introduction, and we covered chapter 1 in our first session. So today we will cover chapter 2, 3, and 4. That is the goal. As you know, this is a summary, not verse by verse discussion on the Upanishad, but a summary. So as in the overview, what we found was this Upanishad is part of the Samaveda. So that's very evident from the Shanti mantra because every Veda has its own Shanti mantra. And this Upanishad also is a dialogue between a Guru and Shishya. Unlike Katha Upanishad, we don't know, unlike Katha Upanishad and also the Mundaka Upanishad, we don't know who is the Guru and who is the Shishya. It's unknown Guru, unknown Shishya. And there are 4 chapters. There are 35 mantras, and this Upanishad got the name called Kena Upanishad because it starts with Kena. And another interesting point we discussed was this Upanishad has 2 commentaries by Shankaracharya. One is very grammatical and the other one is on the meaning of the Upanishad. Both are brilliant commentaries. So this is very high level introduction we saw. And then we also saw a couple of other points. The etymological, from an etymological meaning, the word Kena means by whom or what is the cause. So what is the cause, meaning what is the eye of the eye, etc. So I think we have some disturbance. So if you're not speaking, if you can mute, that would be great. I don't know. From where we have a lot of noise. Okay, we got it. That's fine. Okay, so this particular Upanishad has inspired a lot of people in the world. So we have seen all that. And then what we have seen is in the introduction, we saw the Shanti mantra, which we listened earlier, mainly to give health, emotional intelligence, everything for the study of the Upanishad. And then where we saw was chapter 1. Chapter 1 is very informative, and it was kind of a big bang. So let's reflection on that chapter 1 very quickly. The whole topic of chapter 1 is mainly, it starts with a question around Atma. We want to know, the Rishi or the Shishya want to know, what is the nature of the Atma? Because the question here is so brilliant. He tells, my body, which includes my sense organs, my mind, my intellect, they are inert, insentient matter. They are intrinsically insentient. But at the very same time, they are sentient right now. Right? So the intrinsically meaning inert matter, what exactly is that X factor that gives the sentiency to this matter? Just like a computer, by its nature, inert and insentient. Without the power, right, the computer does not function. Just like that, some X factor in the human being is making that human being sentient. It is making that human being conscious. It is making that human being respond to the situation. It is making the human being to do something in the external world. It gives the sense organs to perceive. It gives the mind to feel. It gives the intellect to think. And it gives the power of the sense organs to do actions. So what is that X factor which makes the I? I by itself is inert and insentient. But we know that through that I we are seeing. Ears by definition, we know, or even with the science, we know that ear is inert and insentient. What is that X factor that makes the ear functioning, the eye functioning, the mind functioning, the intellect functioning? And the Upanishad call this unseen principle as Deva. Deva. This is the word Deva means. That which shines. That which enlivens is Deva. And then the Upanishad discusses, right? What is that Deva? It tells, see, even though there is an I, there is some X factor behind that I, making the I. That which gives the I-ness to the eye, that which gives the earness to the ear, I'm just making up the word, that which gives every sense organ functioning, the eye of the eye, the ear of the ear. And the Upanishad tells that is Atma. A brilliant definition for Atma. So the Atma is something that is the eye of the eye, the ear of the ear, everything. Now, once it is defined, the natural question is, how do you recognize this Atma? How do you separately know this Atma apart from this body? Because we have seen that the body is not Atma, the sense organs are not the Atma, the mind is not the Atma. Then how do I recognize this Atma? And why do I take this body as me? The Rishi tells, because of the close proximity, when an instrument stays very close to you, naturally you take that instrument as yourself. This is the problem of identity or identification. For example, if I have a contact lens, right? What happens? Over a period of time, I feel that it is part of me. In fact, contact lens is only an instrument that enhances. Without something else, it will not work. If the eye is not there, the contact lens will not work. Just like that, the eye is there. If the consciousness is not there, or if the Atma is not there, even that eye won't work. Like that, the ear is there. You may use a hearing aid, but if the ear is not there, the hearing aid will not work. That is the problem, right? But how does the ear work? If the Atma is not there, meaning the ear will not work. So the Rishi tells me that, see, your body, your sense organs, your mind and intellect are equipments, just like a contact lens, just like a hearing aid, just like the other tools we use. It is a tool given to me, but the proximity of that tool, when it is so close to me, so typically I take the tool as myself, or the combination of the tool and the Atma as myself, and that is what the challenge is. Now, if that is the problem, how do I know the Atma? It is very difficult. That is what we are going to see in the second chapter. So in the first chapter, we heard about Atma. We heard a few characteristics of the Atma. We cannot define the Atma, but we know that the nature of the Atma taught by the Rishis is, it is not a part, product, or a property of the body. Take the eye. Eye is a part of the body. It is not a product of the body. It is not a property of the body. It is independent. It independently exists, and it perverts and it elements the body. Just like the electricity perverts the electrical equipment and enlivens the electrical equipment, just like that, the Atma perverts the body and it makes the body enlivened. Please don't take the example as it is, right? We discussed this in the Bhagavad Gita class earlier this week. Every example is defective. Otherwise, it won't be an example. It will be the reality. So, example, please understand that we give an example to give an approximation. So, please don't convey that Atma is electricity. The other day, somebody was messaging me. That's why I'm telling. So, please be careful. So, it is like electricity. Just like the electricity pervades the electrical equipment, Atma pervades the body. The Atma gives life to the body. Another example. This is a beautiful example. When you sit and watch a movie, right? In the screen, you see the epic running. Let's say that Mahabharata. So the war is running, the Kauravas are there, the Pandavas are there, the chariot is there, the elephants are there, the din and roar of the war is there, everything is there. But what exactly is playing as what exactly gives existence and everything to those events happening on the screen? It is the light. If you take the light, what happens? The war is gone, the existence of Yudhishthira is gone, everything is gone. So can I say that the light perverts in and through the movie? In fact, it is the light that is appearing as the movie. If you take the light out of the movie, there is nothing. This is what it is. And the third point is, the Atma is not bound by the limitations of the body. Just like the movie is played on the screen, but the light is not bound by the limitations of the screen. The electricity is not bound by the limitations of an electrical equipment. Of course, the expression of the electricity through that equipment will be dependent upon the conditions of that equipment. But the electricity, the scope of the electricity is not just limited to the conditions or the capabilities of that instrument. And the next point is the consciousness or the Atma survives even after the death of the body, because nothing happens to the Atma. Remember the example of the bucket, water, and the sunlight. The sun on the sky. Yes, the reflection may happen on the bucket of the water. Even if the bucket breaks, even if the water is gone, nothing happens to the sun. Right? This is what it is. So these are some of the characteristics we have seen in the chapter 1. So with that, we can go to the chapter 2. So this is relatively easy. Of course, the chapter 2 has a few topics, but other than that, chapter 3 and chapter 4 are relatively easy. So the second chapter of the Kena Upanishad. The second chapter of the Kena Upanishad, the topic is called the Atma Jnanam, not about the self, but the nature of the self-knowledge. So please listen here, because this is a little bit tricky. So just try to understand. So here, the Rishi tells, Atma or the consciousness is not an object of knowledge. Let's say that if I see a flower, every perception, there is a subject there is an act called perception, and there is an object. So when I see a flower, what happens? The flower is the object. I come to know about the flower. When I study about the sun and the moon and the stars, right? What happens? The subject matter is, meaning the information about the sun and the moon and the star, it is the object. So any experience I have in this world, it has to be something outside of me, right? That is what it is. Nobody can say that I know Atma. Because what? Because of the Atma, you know everything else. So you cannot say that you know Atma. At the very same time, you cannot say that you don't know the Atma, because it is self-evident. Because of the Atma, every other knowledge happens. So self-knowledge is not in the, meaning this is going to be the language of paradox of the Upanishad. So please don't worry a lot. No, it's not like you know something externally. Atma cannot know like that. That's all it means. Just like you try to understand an atom, that atom is outside of you. That is why you are able to objectify that. If you can objectify something, it is not the subject. You cannot directly objectify the subject. That is why if you want to understand Atma, the only way is try to see the reflection of the Atma in your mind. So that is why the self-knowledge is not in the form of an experience. Every experience you have in your life, it presupposes the presence of Atma. Because if the Atma is not there, you won't see, you will not have any other experience. So this appears to be complex, but let me give you a simple example. See, your eye is the instrument through which you see the entire world, right? But if the eye want to see itself, is there any way directly the eye can see? So you can, of course, if you use a mirror, you can see a reflection. There is no direct way to see your own eye by your eye. The reason is what? The eye is the one who sees everything. And unfortunately, that eye cannot objectify itself directly. The only way is to use a mirror. Just like that, Atma is the experiencing factor of everything else, right? The Atma cannot see itself directly. So the self-knowledge is not in the form of a conventional experience. That's all we mean. When we say conventional experience, it is every conventional experience is an object of my knowledge, and Atma cannot be made as an object of my knowledge because every experience presupposes the presence of Atma. So in the case of the eye, you can say that every vision you see in this universe presupposes the presence of eye. If the eye is not there, you cannot see the world at all. If the eye is not there, you cannot see the world. Like that, if the Atma is not there, no experience is possible. So what you can get is the cognition of the fact that Atma is the very subject, consciousness in me. This is a very peculiar nature of the self-knowledge. The Upanishad clarifies that. This is only 5 mantras in this particular chapter, but this 5 mantras gives the nature of the self-knowledge. So this is where you see this language of contradictions in the Upanishad. So that's that topic. So let's move on. So there is an interesting mantra in this chapter. So let's see that mantra. So the mantra tells, Pratibodha vididam matam amritatvam hi vindade. So that's you might have heard this. This is very popular mantra. Pratibodha vididam matam amritatvam hi vindade. So he tells, so the meaning is, the Rishi in the Upanishad tells, the 2nd chapter, verse 4, he tells, indeed he attains immortality, meaning who see in and through every beatification of the mind, the Atma. So the mind, in the mind, lot of experience happening. Through that experience, the one who can see the Atma as the subject of everything else, that person, he attains the Amrutva. He tells, through the Atman, he attains the real strength, the Upanishad tells, and through this knowledge, he attains immortality. The point here is, the Atma is not just like another object to be known. It has to be known through a special means, through the study of the Vedanta, through the Stravanam, Mananam, Nidithyasanam. Other means of knowledge fails to capture Atma. That is the essence of this chapter. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic, which is the third chapter. So the second chapter was a small chapter, 5 mantras. It talks about the nature of the Atmajnanam. Now the third chapter is an interesting chapter. So the Upanishad, we covered 2 chapters, and these 2 chapters were not easy. Definitely a lot of people would have found this difficult to understand. So to make the things a little bit lighten, a story is introduced. A symbolic story is introduced in the third chapter. In the Upanishad, you see occasionally these type of symbolic story. The symbolic story, let me tell and give you the meaning. So that is the third chapter. There are 12 verses which we can cover quickly. It's very, very interesting story. The story is that in the Deva Asura world, you know that always there is a battle that happens between Devas and Asuras. This is very common in all our Puranas. So that is what is described. So after this battle, what happens? The Deva wins. Devas have the victory of this particular battle, which is mentioned in the Upanishad. And typically what happens, once you win the war, there will be a celebration. So the whole Devas were celebrating. Suddenly, some noise or some flash of light, these Devas witnessed in one place. So they asked Vayu to go and check what it is. So Vayu went and checked, and Vayu found, the Vayu Devata found a Yaksha standing there. What is Yaksha? Yaksha means somebody who is deserved to be worshipped. That's all it means. Some person with some brilliant tejas was staying there. It is symbolically, it is the Atma or the God. So Yaksha means Yajaniyam or Pujaniyam. That is the meaning, Yaksha. So Vayu saw this Yaksha, and Vayu asked, "Who are you?" He said, "I am Yaksha." And then Yaksha asked, "Who are you?" That was an embarrassing question for Vayu Devata. Right? Vayu Devata just said, who doesn't know me? I am Vayu Devata. I give prana to every nook and corner of the universe. He was really said, I am the most glorious person. I can destroy anything. I can give life also, Vayu Devata said. Then the Yaksha took a blade of grass, just a blade of grass, and he said, "If you are too strong, can you just throw this off?" Vayu said, "This is simple for me. I can bring tempest, or I can bring a huge storm. I can take down a city completely. I can bring a lot of things down. What is this small grass?" Then Vayu just tried to throw that grass away. He couldn't. He tried his best and he couldn't. So embarrassing Vayu Devata returned. Then Agni said, "Okay, let me go there He came there. Same conversation happened with Yaksha. Yaksha this time asked, can you burn this? Agni said, this is simple. But he tried his best, but he could not do anything. And that's what you see. I copied this from the Amar Chitragatha. A lot of people may have nostalgic memory. So this is a tale of the Upanishad. There is a beautiful Amar Chitragatha. I read this as a child. So this nostalgic memory came to me. So that's why these pictures are from the Amar Chitragatha. You can see Agni is trying to burn this grass. Nothing happened. So this was embarrassing to the whole Devata. So then Indra said, oh my God, you people are useless. Let me, the leader goes. What happened? Indra could not even see the Yaksha. Or at least Agni and Vayu, they could see the Yaksha. Indra could not see him. Nothing happened. So Indra tried his best. He could not. But at that time, some sense came to Indra. He stood there and started praying Mother Parvati. That is what you see. So once Indra started praying, what happened? The goddess in the form of Parvati came to Indra and said, what you are seeking is in fact Brahman. And Mother Parvati explained that, see, you guys thought that you got victory and you are sustaining this universe because of your own strength. If the Atma is not there, you guys are useless. You cannot do anything. So symbolically, we need to understand this, right? Mind is represented by Indra. Sense organs are represented by the other devatas. That is the meaning of the deva. Devendra means the lord of all sense organs. Each devata means a sense organ. That's it. That's how it is. Please don't mystify it. So the mind and sense organs, they cannot easily find Atma. Remember, we talked about that in the second chapter. They cannot understand the Atma. And also, the power enjoyed by the mind, the power enjoyed by the sense organs are lended power, borrowed power of the Atma. The power of the computer, the computer functions because of the power. The power came from the electricity. The movie runs because of the light. If that light is gone, there is no power. So, Shankaracharya, normally he is not interested in all these stories, so he gives a few explanations. He tells, first one is, the existence of the Brahman is very critical. So even though the Brahman is not directly visible, by symbolically presenting Yaksha, the presence of Brahman is highlighted. Then he said, he made a few points out of this story. Without humility, you will not get knowledge. Indra, Varuna and Agni and Vayu could not recognize the true nature of the Yaksha because they were not humble. They didn't have the humility. They were arrogant. Because of that, they didn't recognize the Yaksha. And then next point Shankara tells, all the glories belonging to the Brahman only. We will see this in the Bhagavad Gita, right? Vibhuti Yoga. Wherever there is a glory, it is Ishvara's glory. Remember the Prabha and Pratibha and Pratibimba. So the moon's light is a borrowed light. Just like that, the glories we enjoy is a borrowed glory of the Ishvara. And the next point Shankara highlighted is the importance of Guru. If Indra would not have prayed to Mother Parvati, the Mother Parvati played the role of a Guru here. Without a Guru, it is very difficult to know the Atma. Here, without the Mother Parvati, Indra would not have recognized the presence of the Mother Parvati. And finally, it talks about the importance of sadhana. Indra did the upasana. He made his mind calm, and with the upasana, then only you achieve the Brahma Jnana. So this symbolic story gave these information. So this is a beautiful story, and you see these type of stories occasionally in the Upanishad. You'll see beautiful stories. The story of this, the butcher, all these things comes in the Upanishads. So you'll see this more. But this is the theme of the third chapter. So we saw the first chapter. The first chapter is Atma, the Atma Prashnaha, right? The Atma Surupa Prashnaha. So it is inquires about the nature of the Atma, and then find that Atma is the true subject in all the being. In the second chapter, we identified the nature of the self-knowledge. The self-knowledge is not just like the knowledge about any other object in the world. It is a subjective knowledge. Nobody can objectively understand Atma. The only way you can understand is every experience you have is because of Atma. That is what is highlighted in the second chapter. And the third chapter talked about symbolically the symbolic story of this Yaksha and Indra, Agni, and Varuna. That is the third chapter. And the last chapter is also very, very simple. It's a small chapter. We will cover that last chapter now. So now let's go to the chapter 4. So chapter 4 is again very simple. It talks about the two topics covered in chapter 4 is sadhana and some benefits of the sadhana. So in this chapter, the Upanishad introduce 4 types of meditation. 4 types of meditation means upasana is what? The definition of upasana means asana means you sit or place. Upa means close. So you're getting closer to the Ishvara. So any process that helps you to close Ishvara, get close Ishvara is upasana. So this particular 4 upasanas are derived out of the story we listened earlier. Even that story can be used as a meditation object. So the first meditation is known as Vidyut Upasanam, lightning meditation. Lightning meditation. Lightning meditation means, see, you visualize that story. Visualize that story in such a way that you are sitting there like among the devas. So you see a huge glory in a second in the sky, just like a lightning. So have you seen the lightning, right? What happened in a dark night? Can you visualize that lightning in your mind? It just comes and flashes out. So that is given as a meditation. It's a good meditation. It's a visualization meditation. Second meditation is called winking meditation. Like it is very, very interestingly, it is Nimesha Upasanam. That is the Sanskrit term used in the Upanishad. Nimesha Upasanam. Nimeshanam or Nimesha Upasanam. It's just thinking about how I wink my eyes. Or somebody else wink their eyes. Very interesting meditation. Or that's the second form of meditation. And the third meditation is very, very, again, Manovritti Upasana. Manovritti means just like that Yaksha came and gone. Just observe your mind. The thoughts will come and go. So you are taking a Sakshi Bhava and observing this flow of thoughts. What thoughts comes to, what exactly is the natural flow of the mind? So that is the fourth one. And then the last one is, it is called the glory, right? Tadannam. Tadannam means it is the adorable form of Ishvara. That glory of the Ishvara. That is what is meditated. So these 4 meditations are introduced. Obviously, we have other meditations, so you don't have to do that. But every Upanishad gives a little bit of upasanas. And finally, The last topic given in the Upanishad is the benefits. What exactly is the benefit of studying the Upanishad? So, as the Upanishad tells, if you practice Karma Yoga and if you practice Upasana Yoga, and finally, if you practice Jnana Yoga, eventually where it will lead you? Knowledge of the Atma. See, I'm contradicting myself. I said Atma cannot be knowable. We don't have another word, so we say that you will know the Atma. So that is what the moksha. You will establish in your own true self. Let's present that way. So the benefit is moksha, the freedom from all the sufferings, and this is what the promise is given. So that's the summary of the Kena Upanishad. Very small Upanishad, only 35 mantras. So let's do a quick summary and then we can go to Q&A. Quick summary is this is Upanishad is from Samaveda. Samaveda, so that is why the Apyayantu Mamangani is the Shanti mantra. And it's a very small Upanishad with 35 mantra. And this Upanishad is in the form of a dialogue between unknown Shishya and unknown Guru. And this Upanishad is considered as one of the most popular Upanishad. Even though it's a small Upanishad, it's very powerful. 35 mantras, it conveys the meaning of the Upanishad. In the first chapter, we hear the nature of the Atma. First, the student comes with a question because the question is the mind, intellect, and even the body and the sense organs are inert and insentient. What is the X factor that make them sentient? And the answer is given as Atma, and then the nature of the Atma is given, right? Atma is not a part and an attribute or a component of the body. It is pervades the body, it enlivens the body. The scope of the Atma is not just limited to the scope of the body. The Atma, even when the Atma body dies, the Atma survives. So this is the nature of the Atma. The Atma is not dependent on the body, whereas the body is dependent on Atma. So all those points we discussed. And in the second chapter, the topic is the nature of the Atma. Atma Jnana, not nature of the Atma. Nature of the Atma was discussed in chapter 1. The chapter 2, the nature of the Atma Jnana is discussed. It is not like the knowledge about any other objects. Any other objects you can objectify. Here you cannot objectify. Just think about the example of the eye. Then it will be very clear. The eye can see everything in the world, but it cannot see itself directly. So that logic is given. So that is that explained. And then in the third chapter, the story of the Yaksha and the Devas were introduced. And finally, in the fourth chapter, some meditation techniques. And finally, a path to moksha, Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, Jnana Yoga is given. And the ultimate benefit of studying this Upanishad is the moksha, that is freedom from all sufferings. This covers the summary of the Kena Upanishad. We will do the closing prayer and we can have some 10 minutes Q&A, 10-15 minutes we have for Q&A. So Anu, can you do the closing prayer? We will stop the live, then we can.
Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Thank you. So please note that our plan is to study 10 Upanishads. We covered Mundaka Upanishad from Atharva Veda. And we covered this one, Kena Upanishad from Samaveda. Now, the next Upanishad is one of the most famous Upanishad. That is what we are going to cover. Katha Upanishad or Katha Upanishad. Very famous Upanishad, which is a dialogue between Lord Death and a kid called Nachiketa. Lot of Bhagavad Gita was highly influenced by this Upanishad. You can see some of the mantras exactly the same. So this is an interesting study. So next week we will start. It will take like a few weeks, 3-4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks to study that Katha Upanishad. But that's what we are heading to. So let me stop the live stream and then we can